G'day everybody, I'm with Jess Liu. We're back preparing for Team Champs, talking to a lot of the coaches in the lead up. Jess is the owner, coach, leader of her team Defy Coaching, a very well-established name in the powerlifting scene in Melbourne. She's competed many times internationally herself, but for the first time is bringing her own team. So good morning to you, Jess, welcome.
Good morning everyone, thank you for having me on.
Of course. So talk to us a little bit about Defy and who Defy is, and I mean, because you're quite young yourself, right? And you must have only started your personal training journey quite recently, I suppose.
Yeah, so I turned 23 a couple of weeks ago. I started training maybe about 6 years ago now, and I have since established Defy. Maybe it's been about a year and a half. So I started last year in Feb. Coaching was always meant to be something that I would do alongside studying at uni until I'd become a dietitian, but I ended up doing this full time, and yeah, here we are now setting a team, and yeah, I never would have expected to be in this position that I'm in today. It's definitely a privilege to compete here, and yeah, I've done a couple of team champs myself a couple of years ago as well. They were always such fun comps. I think that we kind of, when we were in USAPL, we saw this as like an event that was bigger than nationals. So yeah, it's definitely pretty fun to kind of run it back to where my roots were a couple of years ago.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. You mentioned you're only 23, you're quite young, but nevertheless very experienced. I think you've been competing for 6 or 7 years. And most recently you competed at the Australian Junior Nationals. And so you're actually part of your own team, which we'll get to in a second. We will talk about your team in a moment. But what's the turnaround? Maybe 2 months or 6 weeks, so very short turnaround. Was that something that you were always going to do? Or was your name just a placeholder and you were going to try to find someone else? Or how did this kind of come about?
I was always supposed to be a placeholder. I was considering competing because my priority this year was definitely to compete internationally and maximize my performance on that platform. However, that didn't end up going to plan at the most recent comp. I missed weight by 50 grams, ended up competing as a guest lifter, even then missed all my deadlifts, so it was not the best day. But after that experience, I thought, why not just give one of these local comps a crack, and what better way than to do it with my team, who have been selected because I think they really represent exactly what Defy stands for, and that is, I think, just people who are willing to give things a crack no matter what. And yeah, I think that the team that I have this year have a very broad and vast, how do I put it? They have their individual traits, which I really respect and admire about them, that make them different from each other. So I have Jet in the 59s, I have Carly in the 69s, and I have Beck in the 69s. And they're all very different, but coming together as one, I think that it's going to be a really awesome time.
Hell yeah, awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're competing at our comp. Again, like you said, you've competed at ours a couple of times in the past. And as a meet director, it's always awesome to have talented lifters in our event. I think as we're recording this, it's Monday, 3 weeks before the meet, and the final nominations came out on Saturday. And I think a lot of people were, a lot of 57s were sad to see you in the 57.
Oh, I wouldn't be too sad. I actually don't know what's going to be there on the day, to be honest.
Well, I think that 57s in general just felt like it was like left hook, Shazaru, right hook, Jess Liu, left hook, Claudia. It's like, oh God. So I think a lot of those 57s were a little sad, but for myself as a meet director, like I said, stoked to have you there. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your team. You mentioned the names. And so Defy Coaching is like your personal training brand. Are these all 3 lifters? They're all people that you personally coach and train yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And where are you doing your coaching out of? Is it in a gym or are you working mainly online?
I'm doing a bit of both. So these athletes are all my online clients. I have met them. So for example, Carly was one of my first ever powerlifting clients. So she was someone I definitely wanted to be part of the team because she was, there from day one. Beck recently joined me since last year. She's been making really good progress with her training. And yeah, Jet also joined me last year as well. He also competed at, I believe it was TSF Open last year as well. So pretty familiar with, how TSF comps are run. But yeah, those, I would say maybe about 30% of my roster is through online coaching, and the rest are through face-to-face or in-person. So it's good to have a bit of a mix of both.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's talk about each lifter specifically. So maybe we'll start with Carly, who's in the women's 69. Oh, and I should probably start all this off by just reminding everybody that Defy lifting in the challengers bracket, obviously it's your first year in the comp, so you'll be lifting on the Saturday. So a lot of the teams, who are in other classes, or who are in the Premier bracket, you guys might not be necessarily facing them, or you won't be facing them on day 2. But interestingly, in that 69 kilo category, where you've got both Rebecca and Carly, all the lifters except for Abby Drummond is lifting on day 1. So the day 1 session will actually be quite packed in that 69 class. But nevertheless, let's carry on. Rebecca, tell us a little bit about her. How was her training going? You mentioned you only started coaching her last year.
Yeah, so it's been a short time of working together, but we have a really good coach-athlete relationship. I think that we knew that this prep would be a little bit turbulent as she was considering cutting down to the 63s. She ended up going to Vietnam for a holiday a couple of weeks back, and yeah, we found that afterwards her weight actually had maintained pretty well, but within the time frame that we had between her coming back from holiday and her competing, it was about 5 or 6 weeks. And during that time, I just wanted her to pretty much focus on her training and not actually doing a very extreme cut the way I did, if it didn't matter. Like, when it comes to team champs, maybe her competitive advantage would be slightly increased if she were in the 63s, but this cut was ultimately for her own personal reasons, and I just didn't want to put that time pressure on her going into this comp. I wanted her to focus on her training, and she agreed as well that, it just wasn't worth it pushing for that. So yeah, she ended up staying in the 69s. Took a little bit of time adjusting back to being in a regular training rhythm, but yeah, she's going to show up hopefully really strong, especially with her squat and deadlift. Bench has been a little bit funky lately, but hopefully we can get it to show up on the platform on the day itself. But yeah.
Awesome. Now, as you mentioned, was initially in the 63 category. A very mature choice. I think any coach who gently encourages the lifters to, hey, cutting is not fun and might not be worthwhile. Yeah. Very mature approach. And it's hard to have predicted that the 63s would have seen such a mass exodus. I think 3 or 4 lifters left the 63s. And so it's become a much emptier class. And like you said, might have been more competitive there, but there are bigger things, I guess, to focus on. The other lifter that you have in the same category, the 69s, is Carly Rosenbrock.
Yes. Yeah, so Carly's building some really good steam right now. She's actually living in Bali. So she's kind of traveling back and forth from Bali to here. It does leave a little bit of external factors that are quite uncontrollable at times. Recently, she got Bali belly twice. So, yeah, and, traveling back and forth, having a bit of jet lag, and also having a constantly changing training environment can be pretty hard. But, yeah, she's incredibly dedicated. I think that she recently hit a squat PR, so she hit 145.42. Her bench has been moving pretty consistently, and her deadlift has been quite consistent. Hopefully we can kind of aim to hit a PB on the day, and I think based on current nominations, she might be like placing 2nd or 3rd or somewhere within the podium or within reach of the podium. So yeah, hopefully if she secures a really good 9 for 9 day, we can get a couple of points from that as well, but that's not the main objective of today. It's just for them to kind of have fun.
Well, that was going to be my next question, right? Is that you've got 2 lifters in the same category, and I was going to ask how you see their competitive chances in that group. Are they going to finish in that top 4 where you can score points above 1? And do you see yourself as a relatively competitive coach in that sense? Are you paying attention to the nominations and the other classes and your competitive chances, or are you just kind of like whatever, we're there to lift the best that we can and have a good time and almost treat it like a local comp. I get the sense, even though you just said that it doesn't matter that much, the fact that you even mentioned that, okay, like she could come second, like you are paying attention for sure.
Oh, yes. Of course I'm paying attention. I think that any coach who wants the best for their athletes would have to pay attention to those outcomes if that does mean that there's going to be a benefit out of that, which would potentially be that if we secure enough points, we could move to the Premier bracket next year. But I'm not going to put that pressure on my athletes to try and aim for that. I want their primary goal to always be maximizing their own performance, because I think that that would in itself allow them to reach that outcome of securing more points for the team. But as much as it is a individual sport and I want them to do their best, there is also that kind of team element where, you know, everyone benefits if everyone does well. So yeah, I would say I'm a bit of both. I don't want it to be a big deal, but I am conscious about it.
Awesome. And so how do you see their competitive chances? You mentioned that Carly might be towards the top, maybe in second, you said. What about Beck?
Beck, not actually sure, because I haven't had a look at a couple of the other nominations or the changes. Hopefully Beck, I think based on the nominations previously, I'm not sure that there would be a podium placement for that, but yeah, we'll just have to kind of see. I'll double check after this call, actually.
Good one. Your other lifter is, like you mentioned, a familiar face at TSF and in powerlifting in general in Melbourne. Very, very competitive lifter, good, talented lifter himself, Jet Bolton, in the 59 kilo category, one where it's often a competitive advantage to have lifters in these lighter weight classes because Jet's one of only two.
Yes, yeah. That was something I was considering, but Jet, regardless of if he's in a lighter weight class or not, is an incredibly strong athlete. And yeah, I believe that Alfred, from what I heard, was tinkering between the 59/66s, and I also listened to the podcast that you did with Victor, but through my conversations with Victor as well, I had already assumed that he was going to be doing 66s. Jet will actually be pretty happy with Alfred competing against him, because when I had a chat with him, he wanted more competition. He just didn't want to be handed those points. He actually wanted to earn them. So I think that competing against someone is going to be, well, it's going to make the day a lot more fun for him.
Of course, I think Jet's competing on day one, obviously, and Alfred are on day two, and so
Yes.
Unfortunately they won't be able to face each other one-on-one in that sense. But like you mentioned, there is that motivation to be like, okay, you've got to set the bar high to try to fend off the chase from Alfred the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing as well is that Victor will be assistant coaching in Jet and I session, I believe. So that will be really interesting. Victor's already stated that he wants Jet to do as best as possible, and then Alfred just has to kind of do whatever he can to, you know, meet Jet's standard. So yeah, it'll be an interesting kind of ish battle, but not really.
Awesome. And our fourth lifter that we're going to talk about is going to be yourself. Before I do, I want to take a break and give a quick shout out to our major sponsor, Symmetry Physiotherapy. Symmetry, our physiotherapy clinic based in Melbourne. There's 9 clinics actually, and over the last year and a half, our gym, TSF, have been liaising quite closely with Symmetry Physiotherapy Ascot Vale as well as Taylor Lakes. We send basically all of our injured and sore lifters there, and they do such a great job. We work most closely with Megan Keeley, ex-AFLW player, extraordinary physiotherapist. The biggest thing in our experience has just been comms. Like, as a coach, as you would know, personal trainer, trying to get good communication from allied health people so we can liaise and work together is so difficult. But Symmetry have been great over the last year, which is why we reached out to them and said, hey, we love you guys. We genuinely believe in your product and your business. Do you want to come on board as a sponsor? They were thrilled to do it. So shout out to Symmetry. They have a offer, which I do not know what it is off the top of my head, but it's some percentage off for new people that are going to come in. I cannot find it right off the top of my head, but it's there. The link will be in the description. So go check out Symmetry Physiotherapy. They're going to have a clinic during the event. So a note to all the sore lifters: you can pause your, in between lifts or before lifting starts, go see them out, get a little bit of a rub down or some minor treatment that might just give you that extra 1%. So big thanks to Symmetry. Okay, let's carry on. Jess Liu, lifter number 4.
That's me. Yeah, so I don't really have much information to provide on myself. I think that maybe a podium spot will be there on the day. Maybe it won't. I think I don't have any expectations on how the day itself will run. I'm happy to kind of leave it all in Victor's hands. If he thinks I should push harder for a certain lift like bench press, because that's kind of something that we wanted to maybe test on the day. That was our primary objective, is kind of send bench press. Not quite sure about the whole squat and deadlift thing because I've been very non-specific with my training for that. But yeah, if he wants me to send it, I'll send it. If he doesn't, I won't. Hopefully on the day we can aim for a bench PB, since I've been not cutting post-comp and I've had a lot more of a surplus. My bench has been getting pretty strong, so I'm keen to see how that peaks.
It's a little bit hard to speak about yourself. Hey, it's like, oh, I'm pretty good. My bench is pretty strong. Dude, your bench is insane.
Thank you.
Like I said, glad to have you at our comp. When was Mega Nuts? How quick is the turnaround? You've got to know in weeks, surely. Like 8 weeks, 9 weeks?
Yeah, about 8-ish weeks. And then there was like one pivot week that I had as well. But I've actually been running a 6-week block going into this comp. Doing movements like conventional deadlifting, which I couldn't actually do for the past couple of years. I only reintroduced it this block, and yeah, like I'm so non-specific that it doesn't even feel like I'm in comp prep right now. That's why I feel like mentally I'm not very like competitive with myself, but if I can get my team to show up in the best way possible, that's my main objective out of the day.
Can I ask if you've got plans to compete later in the year? Like, have you got anything penciled in towards the end of the year?
Yeah. So I received an invite from Greta for SBD Cup, which I'm pretty excited about. I think it's a good redemption opportunity. Obviously 52s is not my forever weight class. It is quite hard for me to stay there in terms of how much I enjoy food, but physically I'm actually very strong in 52s.
Food is a great call. I love that.
I like food, and if it comes to a competitive goal where I do have to kind of put that to the side temporarily, I don't mind. But if I don't have to, I don't want to, kind of thing. But when it comes to SBD Cup, I think that I would like to give 52s a crack one last time, or see how we go for that. And hopefully next year, get back into powerlifting, building up, and being a competitive athlete in the opens as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think, like just talking about my personal experience, when I started lifting, I was in the 66 kilo category, and I was there for a long time. And I knew that I was always going to end up going up to 74, maybe even 83 in the future. And I always told myself, I'm not going to go up until I've done a comp where I feel like, like I'm happy with that result. That's the best I can do with that class. It's time to move on. I had that meet, I had the best total I've ever hit at that weight, and I just moved on and never went back. And so I think, as you mentioned, 52s isn't your forever class, but you don't want to leave the 52 class with, that sour taste in your mouth as to what happened at nationals.
Absolutely.
And so if you can have you also don't want to chase your losses, I suppose, but if you can kind of have that redemption comp, that'd be freaking awesome for you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there, because I'll be there too, as an announcer, not as a lifter, don't worry.
Wait, what are you doing there?
Announcing. I'll be the MC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So excited for that one.
Yeah.
Okay, the 57s, we did mention it's a deep class. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lifters in that group. Really, really competitive bunch. How do you see your chances in that class?
I know that.
At least on day one.
Oh, I think out of day one, obviously Jess Liu is someone who is like the clear lead out of the weight class. I'm not sure, it was a little bit unexpected seeing her drop down a weight class. But yeah, I'll be keen to see how she's able to hold on to her performance. I reckon she's just going to be just as strong as when she competed as a 63. She's probably the clear, number one. So I could be completely like, I don't know, 50, 100 kilos behind her. And I reckon she's like a clear first place winner. Day 2, obviously, Sophie Dobson. And then based on everyone else on the challengers bracket, I think there are a couple people. I've heard Sarah from Adaptive is someone who has a chance of podiuming. Who else? Sammy, she's also very, very strong. Claudia, and Leah from SR Strength, who's, I believe, coached by Chris as well. I think they're all people who are totaling around 400, who are people to keep in mind as maybe fighting for that podium spot. But yeah, it's cool because all of them are actually going to be in day 1, so it'll be a massive battle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to pick. As you mentioned, I think the Shay dropping down surprised basically everybody. She's lifted for 11 years and has never competed outside of the 63 or 64 kilo category. So that was a surprise for everybody. I will say that it was a few years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, that you competed at our comp, and you and Constance both totaled 405 at 60 class. And again, as a fan of powerlifting, as a meet director, I was like, holy hell, 2 lifters totaling over 400 in the 60 kilo class is like insane for me to think about. And, you know, the standard of lifting is so high in Australia, and I was so excited for it, like to see the growth of powerlifting. And then now I'm facing, you know, a comp where in the 57 class, so 3 kilos lighter, we could have you over 400, Shay doing 450, Sophie Dobson over 400, Claudia pushing towards 400. Like, it'll just be like, it's just, the standard is just insane. So I'm really, really excited for it, if you can't tell. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that 57 class shapes up.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had a good chance to think about where your goals are as a club, as a team? You know, you mentioned very gently the idea of getting into the Premier bracket. Is that something that you would love to do, or is that a little bit outside of your capacity at this moment? And how important are those goals, like your actual, you know, objective competitive goals, compared to, you know, other more abstract goals, I suppose?
When it comes to trying to get into the Premiers bracket next year, obviously that would be our main overall team goal. I think we have a decent chance at getting there. It honestly just depends on, like, there's obviously a couple of clear battles where we feel like we know, okay, we're going to secure at least 4 or 6 points here, with Jet included. But yeah, I guess it will actually depend a lot on how I perform as well in such a deep weight class where there's going to be lots of battles going on. And yeah, I guess everyone's just going to be fighting for the top spots in that category. When it comes to the 69 kilo weight class, obviously having both Beck and Carly there, it's going to be quite hard to secure many points on that end. But if we can get, you know, a second or a third, and maybe potentially, I think, do we get points for not 4th but 5th?
You get 1 point for 5th onwards. So effectively 5th onwards is like neutral points, I suppose.
Yeah. So hopefully we can get a couple points there, but I think it would really depend on how I perform on the day as well. If I had have done 52 kilos weight class, I might have been able to potentially secure 6 or 4 points, but I just think that it wasn't worth it on my end at the end of the day to try and be restricted into the 52s post competing and post everything that happened. But yeah, I think that there is a lot going on, and we'll just have to see how we go on the day.
Absolutely, Jess. It's been a pleasure to chat to you. I'm looking forward to you returning to our comp as a lifter. I'm looking forward to you bringing a team for the first time, the biggest team champs that we've ever held. Before I let you go, a reminder to everybody, tickets to the after party are on sale at the moment. They close this Friday, the 23rd of May. So get your tickets, they're only $50. The medal presentation, the awards ceremony will all happen there, as well as that money goes all towards a bar tab and some food as well. So it's a well-catered event. It's only 5 minutes away from the venue. So make sure you get your tickets. The links will be in the description. Jess, thanks for chatting to me. It's been a pleasure. And I'm wishing you best of luck with the rest of your training for the next couple of weeks. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Thank you. You too, JP.